I'm just waiting for our Fantasy Grounds Academy to signal that we are indeed streaming. Giving a quick refresh. Okay. All right, we are live and recording. So welcome everybody, Fantasy Grounds Academy, hosting the Mongoose Traveler Ruleset Month. With us today are Fantasy Grounds content developer Dale McCoy, head of John Brazer Enterprises, and Chris.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, hi. And Chris, our Forge crafter, under the pseudonym Pharoid, or CRW. Say hi.
Hello.
And so we are going to start with some pre-generated questions that I have for our panelists. But before we begin, there's a couple things I want to talk about. And Chris and Dale, welcome to jump in at any time if you have any insight or corrections to what I have. I do want to start by talking about what is Traveler, for those that are not familiar with Traveler. Traveler, as we know it at the Fantasy Grounds and Fantasy Grounds Academy, is the Mongoose second edition iteration of the rule set. But Traveler goes back all the way back to the 1970s with GDW, Game Developers Workshop. Is that correct? Are we wrong, Dale? GDW. And then it's evolved over time. Currently, Mark Miller, the original author of the game, owns rights to it under Far Future Enterprises. But Mongoose is also authorized to create for the game. It is a 2d6 system-based game. It can be pretty fast and furious, just trying to hit a target value of 8 on your dice rolls. Either you have a success or fail and different levels of success based on the effect of the roll. And it's pretty deadly in combat. We'll say that it's not for those that are 5e players, combat is to be avoided in most situations. Anything you guys want to add to that, Colin or Dale or my Traveler players on that?
Unlike like D20 based games, there's no levels, so it's just you add your ability modifier, you add your skill modifier plus the roll, and a target of 8. That's it. It's really quick, simple, and easy.
Great, thanks, Dale.
And I love the combat, even if it goes spectacularly horrible.
Yeah. Well, in the interest, yeah, not having a hit point pool is phenomenal. So it just goes straight, typically, to your endurance, strength, and dex, or whatever order you set it to.
One thing I'd add to that as well is skills can be used differently, in a sense that because you have your attributes, you can use a different attribute to affect your skill level as well, which enables you to come up with some pretty good ways around a character who thinks he's not useful in a certain situation.
Yep.
Yeah, like if you're trying to talk guns, you gun combat doesn't have to be used with dexterity exclusively. If you want to talk guns with somebody, you can use your education or your social, for example, with your gun combat to help you in a specific situation.
Oh, yeah, and task chains. Can't get enough of that.
Well, if I have a good week next week, the fully updated version of those will be finished.
Oh, great. Are they getting baked into the rule set?
Yeah, they are, and they've been extended as well so that you can build pre-made task chains and export them with your adventures and your modules so that players can share them.
Awesome.
Oh, nice. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's almost there. Anybody that's a developer knows that almost there means I'm about halfway done.
Yeah. The final mile is the longest mile.
Yeah, but they should be ready for test next weekend if I have a good week next week.
Great.
Then you might want to explain what task chains are, I would think.
Yeah, so task chains is the ability to string together skill checks in order for your crew or your group to influence from one party member to the next party member's role. For example, the common is a jump drive operation. So to jump from system to system, you need to make a astrogation check, which is a space navigation, and then you need to make a engineer J drive check at task difficulty 4, which is pretty easy. But you do the astrogator check will then affect the engineer's check, and then you're hoping for a success. Otherwise, you could be drifting in space, and that's could be a TPK, to be honest, depending where you end up or don't end up, assuming you come out of warp.
The one thing I'd say about task chains was that was also the idea from Dalton Carlton about a year ago. During these, a year ago, he suggested the idea, and I know it's taken a year to do it, but there has been an iteration of it. It's proven that it works, so it's a great thing that a player of the system has been able to suggest to make the thing better for other people.
Yeah, I can test the beta was working excellently until the core update where you need the image now. I think that's the hold up.
Yeah, the last core update has changed a few things, but that's not the difficult part, trust me.
Gotcha.
But yeah, what I was trying to impress there is, I don't want to take anything away from what you're meant to be talking about here, but people come up with suggestions from all walks of life, and sometimes they get shared and then built into the various rule sets and modules. So I think any creator welcomes other people suggesting things.
For sure. I think that's a good coverage of what Traveler is and what some of the things that we get in Fantasy Grounds. Next up, I do want to talk about the differences between the web store and Forge. I'm going to be leaning heavily on you, Dale, and Chris. If I get any of this wrong, I got some talking points I have, and I just want to make sure I get these right. Traditionally and historically, Fantasy Grounds only had a web store presence, and that was linked to Steam as well. And you have to apply to be a developer with James Holloway. We'll have his information if we need to get it out there. And there's an application process to be a developer. And what they do is they work with the publisher or the IP holder on getting the content converted and up on the Fantasy Grounds store. Now, with the new Forge program that has been released, which is technically a subset of the store, which is exclusively on their website, you could now apply to be a crafter, so different than being a developer. And that's what Chris does. He creates maps and Traveler content that is created on his own independently, and he puts it up on the Forge for sale or for free, because he's got a lot of free stuff up there too. We'll talk about that when we get to Chris. You donate in order to compensate him for his time. But they're both different processes, and there are different ways to get different types of content that Fantasy Grounds wants customers to purchase, and they want and be consumed, I guess. I don't know, Dale, you when you started, only the store was open to you, and you've been doing it for a few years now at least. You want to touch on anything that the audience needs to know about how the store works?
Honestly, you pretty much hit the store really well. You did a good explanation, so I don't really have anything to add on that, to be honest. Sorry.
No, you're good. We have one other resident that Colin here. He could actually speak to the store as well. Colin, you got involved. You don't work for Smiteworks. You're under contract with Mongoose, the way I understand it. Is that when you got with a publisher and wanted to convert a entire rule set to Fantasy Grounds? Is that correct?
In a sense, yes.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say is with the store-led stuff, there is a delay between submitting something and it going live. That can be quite lengthy, depending on how big the thing that you've built as well. That's quite different from the Forge.
Right. Yeah. And Chris, you could probably talk to the Forge as you get your stuff up. Did I explain what being a crafter is like, and then how quickly is it? The way I understand the Forge is once you put it up, it's live. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah, sort of. The Forge is quite easy. You just have a Fantasy Grounds account, and then you create a Forge Crafter account, which is really easy. It's like one page of information, and then if you're going to sell, you got your Social Security or your tax ID. You put in there, and it's really just one page. Then once you get approved as a crafter, um, you create your content and post it. It's really pretty intuitive. It's not hard. So you just go to the different tabs on the screen, and you can upload your art or your logo, and then some sample screens, and then upload the actual mod itself, or the build they call it. And then it takes a little bit for that to get approved.
Mm-hmm.
A day or two sometimes. It's not a huge deal, but I think I'd add that one of the cool things about the Forge is you can add stuff after you. So let's say I submit a build. I did the vehicles
Yeah.
tokens, and I did that build initially, and then I added some vehicles later to it. Just re-uploaded the build. Boom, everyone's got some more vehicles. So it's pretty cool,
Yeah. Yeah.
but and not hard at all. I'm sure it's probably way easier than the store.
Yeah.
But
You were an early adopter. That just came out earlier this year.
yeah, I jumped right on it. Maybe too soon. We'll see.
Yeah. But yeah,
But
we get more
I
in
was
depth
pretty
on that.
I was pretty excited, so I was right there, and yeah, we could talk more about that.
Okay. So I think that gives us a general explanation of the two programs for getting content published, and then Dale and Chris will go into your specific experiences here in a little bit. I am watching the Twitch stream, everybody, and I am watching the Discord chat. If anybody has questions, go ahead and feel free to ask them as we go. And then if I think we need to jump in, and we'll go ahead and ask those. Then we'll go ahead and we're going to start off with the pre-generated questions. And I'm going to start with Dale. So Dale, I know I introduced you, but would you mind telling us a little bit more about yourself and John Brazer Enterprises in general?
All right, so hi everybody. I'm Dale McCoy, president of John Brazer Enterprises. Like G-Rex said, my company's been around for this would be 12 years now. We've been producing role-playing content. Started off with Traveler, expanded to Pathfinder, 13th Age, and D&D 5th Edition. And we love absolutely all of these systems. Some we produce more for than others, unfortunately. But Traveler is our main focus these days. Traveler and Pathfinder in general. You get the idea. But anyways, yes. So we've produced. We've been an early adopter of the 4even license from Mongoose. So we've been producing the Third Imperium content stuff for almost the entire length of Mongoose Traveler. And recently we started working in the Soleimani sector. So we're now, we're producing stuff near Earth. So we're really excited about that. We also have a line specific for developed initially, I should say, for Fantasy Grounds. That is space background maps. So this way, your ship fights, can have a lot more, can be a hell of a lot prettier, basically.
Yeah, and those are agnostic to. It's not your space map packs aren't exclusive to Traveler or Starfinder or whatever system. I've noticed they're always available in every rule set I play whenever I go to activate modules.
Exactly. So if you've got your own homebrew version of Star Wars on Fantasy Grounds, you could run it with that, or These Stars Are Ours, or any other sci-fi game that you could come up with. or or even like if you want to take Pathfinder into space, just like
Yeah.
you're just fighting on a rock or something like that.
Yeah. And I'll have some more questions for you about the 4 even stuff, but we'll come back to that.
Okay.
All right. Now I'm going to flip over to Chris real quick. And then, Chris, if you could introduce yourself. I know we've already talked about a little bit, you being a crafter, but I know you publish under CRW. I suspect I know what that is, but just tell us a little bit more about yourself, not just your background as a crafter, because you obviously have some skills in some kind of CAD software or Photoshop, and we'll get into why I think that when we get to what you're producing in a little bit. But go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself professionally.
Sure. Thanks. I'm a longtime computer analyst, SA from the Unix world. Decades of that. Moving up the ladder at AT&T right now. Working on some cloud stuff. So it's pretty fun.
Cool.
I've been an RPG enthusiast since '77 when we first got D&D and Traveler. I was super young, so we didn't follow all the rules, but it was still fun.
I think anybody that started off as a kid could attest to that.
Right. And really, I'm just kind of a computer graphics hack as a hobby, and I've tried to have my career as a system support SA follow that theme. So I've worked at some MCAD groups. I've supported their systems. I've actually worked at Monolith Productions, which is a game company, which was super cool. And they used quite a bit of software. So I'd stay late and look over their shoulders and try to take in as much as I could. So it's always been really cool. I'm not so much in that position now, but
Yeah.
That's what I tried to do. I worked at like ATL Ultrasound for a while, and they used some CAD software to develop, do the surface modeling of their ultrasound machines, and I supported their IRIX frame that did that, and it was I'd just try to talk to the guys that were doing it, and have them give me a license to play with for a while, overnight or something. It was cool. CRW is just my initials, Christopher
Yeah,
Robin
that's
White.
fine.
Yeah, so any Winnie the Pooh fans out there, it's a Christopher Robin.
Oh, cool.
Just didn't. I mean, I just wanted to throw my stuff up there, and I go, well, should I think of some names? Am I really legit? I don't think I'm really that legit yet. My initials should work. I'm just gonna go with that, right? Yeah, I'm just like an everyday guy in his basement that threw something on the forge,
Yeah.
and um, that's really it.
I'll say, yeah, I know personally I'm really excited about the stuff you produce, and my table of regular players have been really happy with the 2D floor plans. For those that don't know Mongoose Traveler, the original core books that they released for floor plans were isometric, which are not VTT friendly. So Chris producing 2D deck plans that come with line of sight has been awesome. And then the 3D rendering stuff, I'll have some questions for you about how you do that.
Fantasy Grounds Unity actually does support isometric.
It does, yeah. You could go to a diamond layout for your grid, and do a fairly reasonable job to get it lined up.
It's kind of janky.
Yeah, there's
lacking another term.
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
it's there.
Absolutely, but
yeah, it is there. Especially if you do it to the best of your ability, then hide the grid. Then your players kind of don't notice how janky it is. As a GM or referee, it kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit, but might be a personal thing. But yes, having the 2D deck plans are awesome. All right, so going to our next question, going back to Dale. So, and I'm going to probably put you on the spot too, because I thought of this after I sent you this. So tell us a little bit about your tabletop gaming history. I want to add to that. I know that you actually used to work for Mongoose Publishing. Any other publishers or any other experiences you'd like to share on this topic? I'd surely be interested to hear about it.
Oh, sure. Okay, so my history was I started back in first edition AD&D, way back when. I've been I didn't really get serious about gaming until college, and playing World of Darkness, which bit of trivia there. John Brazer is actually a character of mine from those days. It was World of Darkness, Gangrel Ghoul. That loved the character so much, named the company. Use that. What's it called? But at one point in my life, I was like, I was reading a book and I was like, I could do better than this. So that's what got me started writing role-playing games, and I've just kept on going ever since. Sorry, I forget the second half of the question now. Sorry.
Yeah.
What was
So
that?
yeah. So more your professional, your career wise. I know you own your own, run your own company, but you used to work for Mongoose. I know that because I found
Yeah.
you in the credits of the core book. So I'm interested in if there were any other companies or any other history professionally.
All right. So, okay, to talk a little bit about my writing for Mongoose Traveler. As soon as Mongoose announced Traveler, I was like, I'm in. I was just like, I want to be a part of this. So I'm actually listed in the first edition core rulebook as a play tester.
Okay.
My group and I, we played the heck out of it, out of the playtest rules, and we absolutely loved it. We actually suggested the rules for, crouching down that appeared in that book. Absolutely loved playing that, and been hooked on Mongoose Traveler ever since. Um, I've also written for Paizo. I've got a number of writing credits in there. My personal favorite that I wrote is in the Monster Codex for Pathfinder. I wrote the vampire section, so I've got a the vampires in there were cool, but my personal favorite actually is a halfling servant of of the vampires in there, where basically I tried to go for Renfield.
Oh, nice.
Let's see, who else have I written for? A number of small companies, a lot of companies that don't exist anymore. But yeah, writing for as a freelancer, writing for Paizo, it's great. I mean, they give you an assignment, and as long as hit your deadlines, and you are you're good. They're like, yeah, we want you back. They pay a lot better than I could. Uh, but yeah, but the majority of my time has been working on my own company.
Yeah. And I'm gonna share. We're getting it in Twitch. We've already been sharing, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna share the johnbrazer.com website here in Discord. It's already come through, or they're coming through. We got the Fantasy Grounds web stores coming through, but we're getting them up on Twitch as well. So we're hitting both.
Thank you
ends.
very much. I appreciate.
Yeah, and may as well do. I already got the link to your redirect from the website to the Fantasy Ground store, and then same thing, Chris. When we come back to you, I'll get that up as well. But we're getting these links out there for you guys. And then last part on this topic is then, when did you come to playing VTTs? Are you Fantasy Grounds exclusive?
All right, so I started. I started. I bought a license probably about 5-7 years ago now, but I didn't actually start playing until about 3 years ago. Whenever I moved to St. Louis, new in the area and didn't know anybody, so I found a group on the Fantasy Grounds website and started playing there. It's actually somewhere on the web. I have no idea where. Is a D&D 5e game of me playing, as a playing a wizard in that game. I don't remember, but yeah, that was actually my first real campaign playing on Fantasy Grounds. Absolutely, love Fantasy Grounds. I've played a couple of times on Roll20, and it's just not my cup of tea. Nothing against it, just I prefer the Fantasy Grounds environment. But Yeah, that I think that about covers. Yes.
Yeah, same thing. I'm not openly hostile towards any of the other VTTs. This FG scratches my itch for how I want to run a VTT game.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Chris, coming back to you then. Go ahead and change the. There we go. So, tell us a little bit about your tabletop gaming history. You said you went back, going all the way back to the 70s, but talk more about games you played, campaigns you've done, and then when you actually got introduced to VTTs and Fantasy Grounds.
Well, I've been pretty lucky. My older brother and me have been playing, since we first got it for Christmas in '77. Both of them, D&D and Traveler, and we'd get the neighborhood kids in and anyone who was into it, and we'd just play and play and play for a couple years. Then we'd move and do and repeat, rinse and repeat at the new place. Um, so we've had some campaigns and some lore in our campaigns that's 40 years old. It's kind of cool. So the universe that we have in Traveler and D&D really um, has quite a bit of history that we can build on occasionally, and corporations in Traveler that a friend of mine created 20 years ago, and spent a lot of time making and around Regina. And you could just kind of build on that. It just cool stuff like that, memories and spectacular ways my character died. We still remember it to this day, right?
Yeah.
Um, and still talk about it. It's just fun. I've also met. It's been primarily D&D and Traveler.
Mm-hmm.
I've messed with Star Frontiers, Gamma World, Top Secret, Bodil, Cyberpunk stuff. I mean, we were really into it, but it always came back to D&D, and then we get tired of fantasy and go, oh, let's do some sci-fi. We do Traveler, or we tried Star Frontiers for a while, and then it died, right?
Yeah.
So then we went back to Traveler. So it's it's been really fun.
Cool.
I started using Fantasy Grounds because of COVID.
Okay.
We have a solid group here up in the Northwest, and it's still got my brother and some friends, and so it's a continuation of that. But we joined their D&D campaign, and it was in person. Um, we did that for a couple years. We always tried to make it and I was the one who couldn't make it the most. So I'm like, you guys need to do some virtual thing so I can, if I miss the first hour or something and I don't have to drive out there, I could just flip open my laptop and I could be there and say, yeah, please don't kill me, right? Or yeah, I catch a grenade and throw it back, or something that's going to benefit me and I could still have fun. And they're like, no, no, we don't want to do it. It's too much trouble. So finally, I'm like, COVID hit. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get these guys into it. Plus, they were 3.5e. They had all the books for 3.5e. They knew the rules 3.5e
Mm-hmm.
like the back of their hand. Like, I couldn't believe they didn't even need the books. They're like, I'd be asking them questions. What's the two hit on this? Oh, you really should have a scimitar because it does this, this, and this. Okay, I'll get a scimitar. So it was kind of cool that they knew the rules like the back of their hand. But 3.5e is not in Fantasy Grounds. It's so I had to talk him into another. Not only did I have to talk him into going virtual, but I had to talk him into another rule set like 5e, which turned out to be the most supported and the best way to go. So I finally got them all talked into that. It was pretty cool because mostly because COVID hit and I wanted to keep the group together. So I went out and bought the full license so it didn't cost them any money. Just kind of grease the skid so I could get them in. And yeah, we played quite a bit since like May of 2020. So we pretty much kept the group together. We probably played more virtual than we did in person just because, people who couldn't make it and stuff. I think it's better, and especially from the DM side or the referee. Oh my God, it's better. You, I mean, I don't have to think that much, and I almost feel guilty like pressing the button and let it figure all that stuff out for me. I'm like, okay, am I sure they did that right? Yeah, yeah. All you guys got this much damage from the fireball or something, right? So it was just, it's
Yeah,
really
the
awesome.
automation. Yeah, I joke with my friends that I don't know if I could DM in person ever again. Fantasy Grounds just ruined me.
No, I told them if we ever do them in person and I'm DM and I'm bringing Fantasy Grounds, I don't care.
Yeah, I
And I
think
got, I
that'd
got,
be my
I
screen.
got Arctic Forge to support it, so I could, blast it off to a screen, and
Oh yeah,
we're gonna do this.
awesome.
We're not there yet, but we'll get there. Um,
Very cool. We saw Pharoid. We got a question in from Twitch on you. We got Kent from Washington. Looking forward to reaching out to you on Discord, but he was wondering if you got some snow.
We did. I can still see half of my yard. So my yard's half white, half green now, but we had quite a bit of snow at one point.
Nice.
I like it the first day or two, and then I don't. So snow's only my thing as long as it goes away real quick.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that. That's my living situation. I grew up in Chicago. I live in coastal Virginia now, so when it snows, it's gone the next day.
Even though I'm work from home, 100% of the time, you still gotta go to the store and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's just an annoyance. But over Christmas, it was super cool. So I'll say that.
Nice. All right, and Pharoid, we're getting your stuff out there on the Twitch, and we got Larun got you already here in Discord. So we're gonna come back to Dale. Next question. All right, so Dale, yeah, so it's going to be a direct publishing question on Fantasy Grounds, and I'm going to kind of rephrase it how I gave it to you.
Okay.
So it's when did you start publishing on the Fantasy Grounds store? But more to the point, were you already publishing physical and you on Drive Through RPG and DM Guild and stuff? Was it when you started doing it there? You said you were going to do it on VTTs as well, or was there a point internally where you said, you know what, we need to get this stuff up?
The latter, actually. It was, whenever it was after that first game I was talking about. It was like I was playing a 5e game, and I was like, I've got some races right here for 5e. Why don't I just try doing that? So I tried getting that going, but my programming skills were just not up to snuff. So I actually found found a developer to help me do that, and they were able to get everything, sorted out, the rough spots that I couldn't do. But I took the time, I learned Fantasy Grounds programming, and it's that since then it's like this is definitely the future of where gaming is going. And even if it's not the the default way of playing a game, more and more games will migrate. Because my current gaming group, I'm currently gaming over Fantasy Grounds, but we started during COVID. But we were all local to the St. Louis area, and figured, okay, whenever this is all over, we're gonna get together and play over around a tabletop. Someone in the group has moved away, so even when post COVID, we're gonna still be on Fantasy Grounds because it's like, well, that's the only way we can all still be together. So this is what's going to. I don't see a lot of people, once they see that Fantasy Grounds and other online role playing tabletops, how well they work. I don't see them leaving it, behind permanently. I mean, sure, they may be in a tabletop game, actual in-person game, but they're not going to be leaving the online component behind, at least not from my perspective. So this is definitely where the future is going.
Yeah, so you don't see an attrition from VTTs back to in-person. If anything, they just go hybrid and do both.
Exactly, yeah. So doing Fantasy Grounds, getting our content online for consumption on over Fantasy Grounds is definitely part of our strategy moving forward. Yes.
Great. Do you try to sync up releases? I know it's hard as to get it to do that. Is that the plan? Get that over
sometime in the future.
Okay.
But unfortunately that's not the case right now. Yeah. We're trying, but that's just not happening right now.
Yeah, and to talk a little bit, get off Fantasy Grounds a little bit, but I'm correct in saying your John Brazer Enterprises, all the rules and supplements you do can be found on Drive Through RPG. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Right. Yes, do you do any physical printing and sales, or?
We do actually. We are technically in stores. We just haven't released a new in-store book in like 3 years.
Okay.
We're still set up for that to do that, but it's just the situation just hasn't worked out for us.
Yeah.
So we're working on that.
Well, I mean,
To
we're
get
in a
more.
kind of a golden age of TTRPGs on the way you can consume the product. So there's a lot of great stuff out there. It's a matter of finding it and playing it.
We do a lot of putting our books for print on Drive-Thru RPG. So if you want a physical print book, you can find one of almost all of our longer books, like longer than 32 pages, for print at Drive-Thru RPG.
Okay. Awesome. All right, thanks, Dale. I'm going to switch back to Chris on the next one. All right. So, similar question for you, Chris. What inspired you to jump on and start being a crafter on the Forge? I know we mentioned we talked a little bit how you're an early adopter, but what was the I want to do this?
Really, I guess necessity. Everyone's used to sitting around the table with the deck, the deck plan of the ship you're on, and putting your dudes on it. And this is where I'm at. I'm in my stateroom, or I'm on the bridge, or I'm in engineering, and it just kind of gives the referee an idea. So when he tells you, there's a hull breach and you get sucked out, you could say, "No, I didn't. I was over here in my stateroom, right?"
Yeah. Okay.
so
I'm gonna retcon where I was at.
you always want the deck plan up, and having the ISO one up was okay. I mean, I think they're cool, and for theater of mind, they're really cool. But then I went and I spent quite a bit of money getting everything set up, and I'm ready to roll, and I'm like, I got what is it, high and dry,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much about a scout courier, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, that I don't have a scout courier deck plan, so I went I went out and scoured the internet, and I'm like, I found a few, and I picked one that I wanted to use and bought it, added a little line of sight, but it didn't feel right. It just taking different art from different places and throwing it into your campaign, you kind of lose the theme feel, which is probably what Mongoose is trying to protect, and I totally get it. They want with 2022 now they're doing 2D maps,
And
which is
they
awesome.
look phenomenal. Yeah, updated
They
artwork.
look awesome.
Yeah,
And I'm sure MBM or somebody's gonna with their 2022 release, we're gonna get 2D deck plans, so that's gonna be cool.
Yeah. No, I don't want to get kind of on that note too. Mongoose did have 2D deck plans available, but they were black and white. I grabbed them thinking I was going to use them, and it just didn't match the theme of playing on Fantasy Grounds, just doing the black and white line art. So we went back to the 2D isometrics.
I love those black and white. They just bring back the nostalgia, and they're super cool.
Yeah.
And at the table, they're probably fine because everyone's theater of mind, pretty much.
Yeah.
And they're just so nostalgic and cool. But I was gonna add line of sight to that, and I'm like, am I really trying to add line of sight to this black and white thing? That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I added line of sight to another one that I purchased, and just didn't feel right as I added more assets, and it's just kind of a disconnect in the theme.
No, you started doing this before the Forge went up, so that's not what I'm understanding?
Yeah, so I got the itch to. I mean, like I said, I've been doing Traveler since '77, so I've designed a lot of ships and all the different rule sets, and oh my gosh, it's every time they change the design sequence, and I wish they just came out with a standard design sequence that you could do, and it just pump out that versions of your Starship tech specs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think RPG Realms is working on something really cool, so which is like a 3D modeler, which you create your Starship, and hopefully it's going to spit out something really cool. But look for that Kickstarter. I keep hearing I'm on their list, and I keep hearing that they're going to do a Kickstarter pretty soon. But like MBM says, the first 80% is easy. The last 20%, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
especially with something that complex, it's going to take a while to do. So I'm waiting with bated breath on that one. Anyway, I did start. I go, oh, I don't have a. It really started with the Scout Courier and High and Dry.
Okay.
So I don't have a Scout Courier. This this sucks. So I I've done a lot of design work in the past, and then so I started looking out for assets, and then there's hardly any sci-fi assets out there, and if they are, I don't like them. I mean, there's really cool ones. They're just not my taste. Starfinder, and I'm a little jealous of Starfinder because they're new to the scene and they get so popular, and I'm like, what? Really? I mean, Traveler's been around forever. Come on, guys, right?
Yeah.
Let's it's sci-fi. Your first choice should be Traveler. But um, I didn't really like the Starfinder the the theme, I should say. It
Hmm.
was too colorful, too alien-like, so too much magic. It wasn't like my taste is more between 2001 and Firefly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. For
Kind of
sure.
like kind of like a real look, um, like Blade Runner.
Yeah. Gritty.
I couldn't find anything like that, so finally I'm like, okay, I'm going to do assets, and I looked at assets, and then you get into the legal. Oh my gosh, if I use this asset and I want to sell it, which I'm spending all this time, I probably should try to sell it. Um, and just got frustrated, so I finally started making my own assets in 3D since I have that skill set and had the programs. I'm like, this is going to take a lot of time, but I should only have to do it once,
That's it.
right?
Yeah. Once you have it, you done it.
So I got it, and while I was making my own assets in 3D, Arcade Forge came out with a sci-fi Kickstarter for assets, and I'm like, well, I'm up. I jumped all over that, and then when they released so I started doing my integrations within Fantasy Grounds with their tile creator and map creator within Fantasy Grounds. So that's where I initially started. So all my assets were geared towards that, and they weren't quite as detailed because it was what 100 pixels, and I really didn't understand. So I was making them at 100 by 100 pixels, which probably shouldn't do, right? Because as soon as you zoom in, they pixelize,
Yeah.
and no one could really answer my question on sh- what resolution should I make my tiles at so they don't look like crap when you zoom in. I mean, what is there a standard? There really isn't.
Yeah. We have the Fantasy Grounds publishes image resolution, but maybe Garner or Laroon, if he's listening, could speak to a tile resolution. I don't know if they've gone that granular and what the details is supposed to be on that.
No. Well, finally I went 256 by 256 as the standard, which is the standard in, believe it or not, Unity, and
Hmm.
Arcade Forge is written in Unity. So
Great.
that seemed like a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I stuck with 256 by 256, moved what I had up to that point to Arcade Forge, and upped the resolution and continued from there. And that's worked out really good. I really like Arcade Forge, even if I'm using their assets.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of like the Photoshop of
So he's done
map.
exactly what we'd recommend from a best practices standpoint. And I mean, you can actually get to the resolutions the same way that we think about the tokens that a detailed token might be a 200 by 200 by 200 token, and it fits into basically a 5 foot space on a tile. You're never going to want your actual tiles to be that detailed from a resolution standpoint. But I dealt with it actually yesterday. You and I were talking about
Oh yeah.
doing the barrier peaks, and I had to.
Yeah.
So on the bottom level of Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, there are bleachers, and you have to do bleachers alongside the pool, and you have to do bleachers in the gymnasium as well. So this is the bottom level of Spaceship on Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, and there's nothing out there, absolutely nothing. So I actually had to go do it. But the the real the real resolutions that are usable are basically probably well, and again, it depends on how big you want those tiles to be leveraged. Is that tile going to be a 25-foot by 25-foot space? Is it going to be a 50 by 50-foot space? But roughly figure it out based on the same recommendations that we've got um, for squares. And those squares, that recommendation is basically a 50 pixel 5 foot square, right? So that's roughly what it ends up being most of the time for best practices on Fantasy Grounds.
Well, that's awesome. Where were you a year ago? I should ask you. I was like, trial and error, trial and error. Load it up, zoom in. Oh, that looks like crap. Load it up, increase the res, zoom in. So, yeah, great answer. I'm glad you clarified that. Um, let's see, where was I? I was on, creating assets, and then the
Mhm.
legality of that, and the you can use it for personal use, but you can't sell it, and all these
Mhm.
different ones. And some I just didn't like right off the bat. Um, but I settled on Arc and Forge. Um, made the Scout Courier. I actually made the first one I made was my own Starship because the Scout Courier wasn't really throwing me. So I made the 10,000 ton buffered planetoid that I had designed in T20 for our campaign, and that's up on the Forge. Um, so that's where I started because I had already designed that in T20 and put a ton of work into it, and then I had to redesign it for the Mongoose specifications. So I had to go get I had to redesign the floor plan by just a little bit and to get the high guard specs, and I had to go out to Google SketchUp, which got bought by another company because when I designed it, the ISO views in Google SketchUp, so you could float around it in 3D, which is really cool.
Mhm.
Um, I had to change that. I had to make some bigger, and to a certain degree, it is a game. I'm not going to make it super exact, but
Yeah.
I think I added a level or I missed a level and I had to squeeze a level in there in Google SketchUp in order to get those ISO views that I put in the Forge. But it definitely adds the coolness factor. If you ask me, I think it's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So I made that one first, and I'm rounding out my assets. So I got my asset base here. So I made that one starship first. I wanted lots of it's round, so that's good. I wanted lots of different corners and uh, to be able to just computer consoles and stuff. And I threw that one out there first. I think pretty sure I threw that one on the Forge first, and then I go, well, I should round out my assets, so I'll just do some more starships, and that'll help me figure out what I'm missing. So I did the Scout Courier, I think, next, and I think I even put the Scout Courier in the Fantasy Ground forum, the Traveler Design forums, before I threw it in the Forge.
Yep.
So I updated that one since that point and put the new assets on it that I had at that point, and then I posted everything. So I had some emails back and forth with Matthew Sprang and Mongoose and Doug Davison and that other guy. I
James
forget it.
might be James
James.
Holloway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was debating, do I want to put my stuff on? Do I want to put my stuff on the Forge? I knew I wanted to because that was the coolest, and you can update it, and it was integrated with the Fantasy Ground. So that was my goal.
Yeah.
I want to get it on there, but it's Traveler, and they want to protect their IP, obviously,
Mhm.
and even though it's all my assets and it's all me and Arc and Forge, but it's like you're designing the Millennium Falcon or something with your own assets or something. That's their IP. And
R-
the only reason most people are going to want it is not because of my assets, it's because it's a Scout Courier,
mhm.
right? So, so I reached out to them and had some emails back and forth. And he's like, "Excuse me." He's like, "Yeah, cool. I'm all for it. It's cool for free." And then we
Mhm.
got into some more discussions. And I left under the impression that what they did last was Doug announced something and the linking or whatever he announced, and Mongoose was part of it. And then I was under the impression that it was kind of the same as TAS, that I could post it and that I could go ahead and do that and charge. So that's what I did. I did the rest of them. I charged a little bit, $3 to $5 or something each. I tried to include a couple Starship variants in each one, but that's reasonable. There's no way I'm going to get rich,
Yeah.
and free's about the same, to tell you the truth. It's really just the thought behind it.
Yeah. Let's say I think I have the notes from Doug. Is it the Forge program? Would you royalties are 60% go to the crafter is what
And,
I've got in my notes.
and that's probably the best deal you're going to get because the TAS is even less.
Yeah.
But but the TAS you're going to sell a lot more. So if I would have released my stuff on TAS initially, I'd probably be making quite a bit more money because it'd be valid for all the different VTTs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care about those. I just want Fantasy Grounds, and I want
Yeah.
to support. I wanted MBM to keep pumping out. You know, he's a machine. I
Yes.
wanted him to keep pumping stuff out. I wanted to sell, to at least help sell the rule set.
Mm-hmm.
And if you distribute, I don't know if you want me to go into this detail, but if you distribute in the vault, which is one of the super cool things about Fantasy Grounds and what Wizards of the Coast probably requires them to do, it protects their IP,
Mm-hmm.
protects it, and it keeps it within a rule set, mostly, but almost for sure within Fantasy Grounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can bind your module to or your extension, whatever you do, to that rule set, which is awesome. So I go, yeah, it seems like that's the best way. But if you go through tasks, I think you're giving up a lot more control and maybe even some ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And it, and that's where I kind of get frustrated. It's like the old saying: if you love pizza and you deliver pizzas, all of a sudden you start not to like pizza so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if
Yeah.
you're an ice cream taste tester or something, pretty soon you don't like ice
Ice
cream.
cream,
But
exactly.
I got into the legalities enough of it to realize that uh, this really, I'm just gonna ask for permission. Well, actually, what I saw is my stuff was out there for charge for a fairly short period of time, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my God, I was trying to hurry to be the first because I'm gonna be the first on the forge, that'll cred.
Yeah.
So I hurried up and did my designs and got it out there. And I'm like, okay, phew, I was the first because I expected a landslide,
Yeah.
right? I
Mm-hmm.
go, well, if I get on there first, maybe I'll get some cred, and then John Brazer Enterprise is gonna come and just dominate,
Yeah.
right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just waiting for that. Day after day, I'm going, pretty soon, bam, there's going to be like 300 things on here, and I'm going to, fade into obscurity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, is fine. I don't care. Um, and that never happened. So after, I don't know, must have been a couple weeks, maybe more. I'm like, well, I'm certainly not getting rich. So
Yeah.
I'm a,
No.
I reached out to Matthew Sprang again and Doug Davison and said, hey, here's my stuff. Because I'm not even sure if Matthew Sprang even looked at it. He's so busy. He probably just replied to me, yeah, whatever, yeah, whatever. And half the questions I asked him, I'd send him an email with like 5 questions.
Mm-hmm.
They'd answer the first one and then kind of gloss over the next three,
Yeah.
right?
And
So my question, because they're both busy, and I'm just really just some dude in his basement being a pest, right?
mm-hmm.
I did, so the questions I asked are, hey, can I do this for free? Can I do this for charge? Where can I do this? Task, Forge. How does that work? Um, if if I can't post to the Forge, or if I choose to go to Task, will you give me permission to post a mod file? Because all I care about is Fantasy Grounds, right?
Yeah.
Well, you got to get permission to put a mod file on Task, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they never got to answering that question, and I did push the issue because I thought I could publish on Forge. So I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Looks like we're good. So I posted on Forge, and I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with the content, and um, like I said, I sent out the email afterwards, and I sent some sample work to Matthew, and he looked at it, and super nice guy. I mean, he's really, obviously really behind the RPGs and the community,
Yeah.
and he's like, yeah, I'd appreciate it. I'm all for your stuff and what you're doing, but I'd appreciate it if you didn't charge. I'm like, cool. I mean, because the email said, hey, if you're cool with this, I'll keep doing it. Be, but if you're not, I could do anything. I don't care. I could take it down. I could not charge for it. Whatever you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's your IP that, and you're in charge, and he's a licensee too, so it's not like he immediately is going to have the answer to all my questions sometime,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Right.
So
Yes. Yes. Travelers under FFE now.
it's a super difficult thing for him too,
Yeah.
I'm sure. And I think that the last thing he wants to do is consult lawyers about some dude who wants to post something on the for Fantasy Grounds, some new thing that he probably is barely heard of.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, hard to, yeah. A lot of publishers don't understand. Yeah. Well, you bring up a really good point, Chris. Is that you really should get permission from the IP holder if you're gonna craft under the forge. Just putting stuff up may violate terms of services, and it's better to do your research like you did, and get the correspondence and have everything on hand.
Yeah, like I said, I was under the false impression that I could do it, and I wasn't charging a lot by any means.
Mm-hmm.
And then I probably would have eventually made them for free anyway, because tracking the amount of money I make almost costs me more in time than the money I got. It's still sitting out there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
I haven't used it.
Wait for that threshold to come in. But good stuff, Chris. I'm gonna go to Dale then. Dale.
Sorry, I just had to laugh. Like you're not getting rich off of this. Like, yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna go there with you, but we could talk about that a bit. But my question for you, and it'll come back. We did it with Chris. We already started talking about it, but tools of the trade, not just for Fantasy Grounds, but using like Publisher or doing CC3, Campaign Cartographer, stuff like that. What kind of tools does John Brazer Enterprises use to publish their content? And is there stuff you use exclusively for one thing and something for another, for example?
All right, so for actually composing stuff, I use Google Docs and Google Sheets because, sure, I can, write it in Word on my computer, but then, I walk away and then it's like, well, I got to go back to my computer whenever I have another idea. Or I can just do the whole thing in Sheets and type it out in, like on my phone whenever, like I'm lying in bed at 2 a.m. trying to fall back to sleep. And because I got this great idea in my head that I just can't, have to write down now. My wife loves that, let me tell you. So yeah, as for product layout, Adobe InDesign is what we use, and for artwork, that I hire because I do not have an artistic bone in my body. You don't want to see the art I've tried to make over the years. Nobody does. But yeah, so yeah, for every image, that's not me. I hire a number of excellent artists for that. But yes, that's the tools of the trade. And also Fantasy Grounds for creating the Fantasy Grounds Fantasy Grounds modules.
Awesome. I was thinking of something maybe. Oh yeah. So do you use the Traveler Map website? I guess just Traveler Map, because I know there's an export feature for subsectors and stuff, and you're in the For Even worlds. Is that something you use?
Personally and for reference, yes. I don't export from there. Okay. So that is like the rare exception because that's I could draw a straight line with Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
So I could make a little hex grid. So yeah, for the Curlin cluster that we released recently. We got a little map in there of where all the planets are. I didn't create the little planets; I put the planets in there. But for putting it all together, like the actual map itself, yes, I did that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, I'll use the travelermap.com for reference. It's a wonderful reference tool. Absolutely love it.
Gotcha. I just found out about how to export it for publication purposes, but I don't know how legal that is.
Exactly. I'm a little fuzzy on it. I'm sure that all those details are available, and I just don't know them.
Yeah.
And so I'm just not taking the chance until I actually take the time to learn them.
Yep. All right. Yep. Another great learning point there is the tools online that make your life easier. Probably don't want to just take them until you've read all the legal jargon on them. Read and understand all the legal jargon.
That's the important part. Understand it.
Yeah. All right, Chris, coming back, we've talked about a lot about Arkenforged. So one of the really cool things I like about your stuff is the 3D rendering. Is that done in Arkenforge as well, or do you do other? That's why I suspected you did CAD rendering before based on your 3D stuff. But go ahead. What kind of tools do you use?
Yeah, can you hear me still?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, okay, cool. Um, 3D modeling, right now I'm using Hexagon, which
Okay.
is from Daz 3D. Um, I've used that on and off in between, all sorts of other 3D modelers over the years. I've tried almost all of them probably, from 3ds Max, Maya, the really complicated ones. I had Cinema 4D, which was a mainstay for a while because it was one of the cheaper alternatives of, the big boys in
Mm-hmm.
modeling. Um, One I could afford. There's no way I could afford those other guys. They were just like 3ds Max and Maya. I got to play with those at work, but that was about it. Um, any 3D modeler would work for the community. Anything you're comfortable with, even all the way to Google SketchUp, it'll export 3D stuff. And most 3D models of like starships and stuff aren't that complicated. You just do a block or two and modify the block a little bit, and then put a really good texture on it, and it looks cool.
Yeah.
Most getting the scale right and all that stuff, and matching it up with the deck plan is probably the hardest part.
Did,
But
did, did you have any professional training? I know you work on it, but did you take classes in
I
college, stuff like that on it?
I never took any classes at all. It's just been a
Self-taught.
hobby.
Yeah.
Um, and YouTube, YouTube
Yeah.
is your friend, right?
YouTube and Dr. Google.
Yeah, if you get an app like I'm using Hexagon now, which is discontinued, I think, and there's like a community supported 64-bit version that I'm using. That who knows when that's going to end. So I'm going to have to learn something else. But that's probably the easiest to get into. I found that if I do a lot of like cinema for a while, and it's super complex. It's almost like CC3 is a CAD program, right?
It
You're
is.
familiar with that one, right? Campaign cartographer.
Yeah.
That was my go-to at first, but good God, I mean, unless I'm doing this for a living, I'm not going to remember this stuff because I'll do something and I'll spend 3 hours getting halfway decent at it. You're about halfway to where I was, which still sucked at, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got good enough to make a model and be happy with it and export it. But half that time I spent was relearning how to make a square or rotate the viewport. And I'm sure I was only using 2% of the functionality of this super expensive software. So I grew that grew old real quick, and I just fell back to Hexagon.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how you make a square. Here's how you do this. It had all um, the basic functionality and surface modeling that I'd use and be happy with that functionality. So it crashes once in a while, but I don't care. So once I get the 3D model done, and it's close enough to the deck plan, and then I export it to one of the many 3D models that they support, which is like a dot object or 3ds or something, whatever. You just export it so you can import it, so I can import it to another program. And Bryce Pro, and Bryce has been around, I don't know, 30 years. It's also not supported anymore or sold. No, it's still sold. It's like
Okay.
$7.
Oh wow.
So
That's probably like $250 software when it's first came
yeah, yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. With it, and I've used that since back in the Apple days when it was Apple. Because from an artist standpoint, that opens up because the interface is so easy to use. I mean, it doesn't have to do anything super complex. You can, or you can, but it'll take you 3 hours of dorking around. But from an artistic standpoint, it was like it opened up your creativity with textures and moving stuff around and landscapes. It was just so easy. It's just too easy. And why it died, I don't know, but it's terrible.
I'm gonna ask you, Chris, afterwards if you could share some of the links that you use that are still of products that are still available. if you wouldn't mind afterwards.
So and since I was just doing, I'm not like doing 3D art or anything. I'm making tiles for a VTT.
Yeah.
So Bryce by far covers that. It's no problem. I've even done some. I did some procedural work to do. I made some procedural textures for consoles because making a computer console can take you a couple hours if you're in Photoshop or GIMP because you're making all these little dials and screens. So I just made a procedural texture that added lights and then one that added detail, and then I made three layers on my console and then rendered all three layers. So I'd have the lights at the top, the detail at the bottom, and then the base texture, or the detail in the middle and the base texture at the bottom of it. So I was pretty happy with that. Um, so where was I? So I got Bryce. I've used other rendering. I did some Traveler 3D work over the years, and I'd post it to forums here and there. Like I'd render a Scout Courier or a Gazelle class starship, and I'd post it to some art forums, but I can't remember which ones. I think what's the main the main Traveler board or FFE?
Yeah, FFE, Far Future Enterprise.
Yeah. I posted. They're still out there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I posted them there, and I even used some of those. I loaded them up the scene and updated it for when I did the Starport release that I got out there.
Oh, very cool.
So save all your stuff. None of it goes away.
So yeah, you're using
20 years later,
old stuff.
Yeah, 20 years later, I pull up a Scout Courier I did and I want the landing gear. I just cut and paste the landing gear to the new thing. Boom.
Yeah.
Why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got the assets. Use them.
Yeah, I've done like light wave rendering. That's way back. What's the free one? The Blender. I've opened Blender, tried it, closed it, over the years.
Yeah.
I've tried to use Blender since before they had a user interface text. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not doing this, right?
Yeah.
Blender's pretty cool now, and I loaded up just the other day because I know my days are numbered with Hexen and Bryce probably, or Hexagon. So I'm trying to get a feel for I'm looking for an easy thing. I wish they'd just write another Bryce and get it over with because I don't have the time or the patience to learn all this.
You want to learn a new one, yeah.
I mean, I'm in the IT field, so I'm learning stuff every 2 days anyway. Right? And then to have to turn around and do that in my free time is just kind of a slap in the face. But it's fun. It's super fun. Don't get me wrong. I love what I'm doing.
It sounds like the hobby within the hobby.
Yeah. But tool-wise, whatever you can use that makes a 3D model, there's a ton of stuff out there. I use Hexagon just because it's super cheap and free, or super cheap. Not Hexagon might be free.
Yeah, and the long story short is once you create it, you export it to an image type file. It's got to be, I believe, JPEG or PNG, and you could use it in Fantasy Grounds at that point, or is there other formats?
Oh yeah. I just assumed that. I should detail that a little bit if you want me to.
I think just for the audience to understand that whatever you use out there, there's a file format it's got to be saved to in order for it to be used in Fantasy Grounds. But once you get there, it's
you typically if you don't need an alpha channel, which is like you don't want to be able to, or you don't need to be able to see through something that's not perfectly square or rectangle, you'd use a PNG. So PNGs are like for tokens or odd shaped things that you put in there that you still want to see the floor around, right? It's not just a square or a rectangle. And PNGs aren't as optimized as JPEGs. So if you have something that's static, so like when I'm in Bryce and I render either a scene or an object like a table or anything really, a computer console from the top view. So I'll render that. Then I'll bring it into GIMP or Photoshop. You can use any editing software. Then I'll use the magic wand to just select the console. I'll create a new image with just that selection,
Mm-hmm.
and then I scale it, and Arcade is like 256 or some 1024, some 256 some multiplication of
Yeah.
256, right.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying.
Yep.
So it'd be a lot of my stuff's 1024 just because I want to do over detail in case to future proof myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so then I do that, and then I save that as a JPEG or a PNG, like I said, depending on whether it's a rectangle or square, or if it's a table or something that I want to see detail behind. It needs what's called an alpha channel, and then it's a PNG, which take up more space, but you got to do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Arcade will save in a Fantasy Grounds format, and it actually saves, if you have walls in Arcade, it'll actually save the line of sight.
Yeah, what do we call it? The oculators? Is that the correct term?
Occluders?
Occluders, there it is. There, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so it'll save all that, but it's not quite there yet. It doesn't do doors or windows or anything like that, and it doesn't really save the line of sight that well. Like if I have a curve or something,
Mm-hmm.
it'll put like 100 points in that little 1-inch curve sometimes.
Okay.
So I have to load it into Fantasy Grounds, and I pretty much still have to do the line of sight, right?
So I got yeah.
But so you save it as a JPEG as your battle map, then you import it into Fantasy Grounds, so you copy it to your campaign images directory, and then it's available as an asset when you load that campaign. And then that's when you load it up and add the lights and the line of sight. And Arcade will also do lights, but I haven't messed with lights much because I can't get the sci-fi feel with lights yet. I've tried a few.
Just too warm. Like
Yeah.
Sun fire kind of.
I'm sure there's a setting. If I mess with it enough, I just haven't done it yet. Because sci-fi feels kind of like a light blue haze or something. If you look at any sci-fi movie or something, you're getting kind of a light blue, neonish haze, and I just can't recreate that enough to be happy. But without getting into all the gritty details, that's pretty much what it's. I want to say not hard. It's definitely not hard to get an image or a JPEG in the Fantasy Ground. So
yeah,
you just copy it to the image directory of your campaign, and boom, bam, you're done.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Getting the JPEG or PNG in isn't hard, but it's the getting to that if you're creating your own. We got something coming in from Chumbly in Discord. I'll give that a second. Here we go. Good question from Chumbly coming in. Pharoid, Chris, what do you feel about the coming Deep Space pack for Arkenforge?
Oh, I'm waiting with bated breath. They came out with the first space, which is called Space Essentials or something like that. I forget. And the problem is I started my assets and I started my theme before I even got right. So I was happy with the look of my assets and the look of the floors and the basic look. It still needs some refinement, but eventually I'll go back and do that. But then Arcade came out, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome! All these new tiles and assets, and they didn't really fit with my theme.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I tried changing the color a little bit of the darkness, and some of them can, most of them can't, but some of them can. So I've included some Arcade assets when I get lazy. But I'm hoping the Deep Space one is way cooler and way more usable for, the theme or the art look that I'm looking for. So I think it's supposed to be out already, but it should be just around the corner because they just finished the Cyberpunk release. So they had the Kickstarter was Cyberpunk, and then a bunch of add-ons to Cyberpunk over the year, and then they were going to release the Deep Space. And I've even used some of the Cyberpunk assets. Those are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't say enough about Arcade. It's super cool.
Great stuff.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, it does, and yeah, awesome. All right, so we got one more question for each of our panels. This is the fun kind of show and tell. So after these, one question for Dale and one for Chris, then it's going to be an open Q&A for those in attendance. So coming back to you, Dale. Still got you. Any
Still here.
any upcoming releases you would like to share, or anything current you want to do a show and tell on, or a combination thereof? Go ahead and show off what's coming for John Brazer Enterprises.
All right. So, okay, look, quick look at. I just want to take a look at my space battles here.
And then, once it goes live, I'll let you know when I got it, and I will confirm it's on the stream. Okay, it's coming through. All right, looks good. Go ahead.
All right. So, okay. So this is our most recent Star Battles map set. I was talking earlier about this, about how helps if I hit the right thing. There we are.
There you go,
Okay. Okay. So, like I said, we've got a number of maps available that are, they for Fantasy Grounds, they include a hex grid and a square grid, depending. So this way you can use whatever kind of sci-fi game that you're running, or you can, we also have it with no grid whatsoever. You can put whatever map you want. We've got, some very beautiful maps here for depending on the exact type of environment that you're working on. A nice Mars looking like planet with a galaxy in the background, or two suns even. Let's see if I can do this without screwing things up. Oh, I think I just did.
Yeah.
Hang on, sorry.
Let's
try this. Yeah, come on you. All right, here we are. Yay. Go live.
All right, go on. And I'm just confirming. Okay, we're back on. It's good. Everything looks good. Go ahead.
All right. Okay, so this is the current one. We've submitted this off to Fantasy Grounds. So this, whenever they go through their process, this will be the next set in the set. This one designed from the ground up for Unity. So this one is going to be. This one had all the previous map sets are 2,000 pixels wide. So if you've got it's good for most monitors, but if you've got a 4K monitor, that's not exactly all that impressive. This set is the first one where they're 4,000 pixels wide, so it's a whole lot more beautiful. You can zoom in really far, like here, this one. Let me just zoom in on this one here. You can see the detail on the planet there. I absolutely just love the looks of these.
You even get the shadows of the rings.
Exactly, yeah. There, the number of other planets here, or this one here with nice nebula, in the background. Yeah, each of these are really big. Like I said, each 4,000 pixels wide. We created this while we were trying to get approval for it, so we don't actually. The set after that is going to be a little larger, not much, but I was just being cautious, so I just set it at 4,000 and just was like, okay, you can make life easy. But yeah, that's the our Star Battles map. Works for any role-playing game out there. It's currently available for Drive-Thru RPG, and I'm gonna do one more screen share. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so but yeah, those are. It's currently available on Drive-Thru RPG. Will be available soon at Fantasy Grounds as well. Want to share with you the D66 Compendium 2. It's been out, came out last year, I believe, but we're currently working on Compendium 3. So, Compendium 2 was D66 Compendium 1 and Compendium 2 were designed with Traveler in mind, and are only available really for the Traveler rule set. So they're not usable for that. But Compendium 3, what we're working on right now, will be available for every rule set. We're not making it exclusive to Traveler. So you'll be able to use it with Starfinder or anything else.
If we purchase it on the web store, we will be able to use it just like your map packs. Doesn't matter what rule set we open. They'll still be 2d6 rolls. I'm assuming if I open it on a 5e, for example.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. Right. So here, let me give you a quick example of how a 2d6 works here. You were talking earlier about Blade Runner there. And it's like, yeah, nice Blade Runner looking image there. Let's see, table. If you go down to tables and you pull up, say, here, let's go for exploration, atmosphere taints, for example. You just need to. How is this atmosphere tainted on a planet? You just hit the roll button right there, and it tells you it's tainted with oxygen.
Sounds awful.
Which is, yeah, terribly. Oh my goodness. Or this one's sulfur dioxide.
Yeah.
Or if you need reasons why the planet is dead, here you just hit the roll button, and it tells you. It says in the corner there, government failed, the planet reverted to barbarism and died off, or lethal radiation. That's not going to be good for life on the planet. Yep. But yeah, so if you it's a book of names, it's a book of ideas, it's a book of if you need a jump start for whatever it is that you are trying to do, you can helps if I'm looking at the right thing. Anything that you could possibly need, like this person NPC has a cat. Well, what breed of cat is it? It's a glimmer drift short hair.
Yeah, I mean, if I could interject, Dale, I own both 1 and 2, and my players, they really like to get me when they go carousing in a bar. They think they got me cornered, and they'll say, "Well, what's on the menu?" "All right, you SOB," and then I roll up a few quick things real quick and get the drink menu and the food menu going for them.
Absolutely love doing that. Yeah. Like, just let's see if we can make the GM squirm by coming up with some random thing right now. Oh, I got that.
Yeah.
It's absolutely great. Love doing that.
Yeah. Good luck on your next skill check.
Yeah. Let's see. I was talking earlier about the Curlin cluster. Let me just show off a little of that here really quick. The Curlin cluster. It's a group of stars here. That here, let me pull up the map. It's this little group of stars here. Yes, this is my wonderful artwork. This is the limits of my artwork. Drawing lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, every planet in the system here has got some details. For example, the Harappa, the one right here in the center, it's got all of the whole UUP right here listed with all the details. You've got notes on every planet. Yeah. And also, all of our books are in reference manual format. So if you just want to sit back and read it, you can just pull up like Thorwald here, for example. You can read all the details on Thorwald itself. Actually pull up the information itself right here in story format, or the actual system itself. And then see Curland, Curland being the main system. Oh yes, the map. I forgot about the Curland map. My bad. Images. Just like that. So you can images that you can share with your entire gaming group.
Yep. It's pretty much a simple right click and a couple clicks and you're there.
Exactly. Yeah. We've also got a group of creatures, the Creatures of Distant Worlds, which is a whole bunch of NPCs, a bunch of monsters for your players to shoot at, or if you need to just add something to an encounter, you don't want to add in, here's another bandit, here, give some monster to a bandit, so this way it changes up the encounter some. Let me pull up some of those images really quick. Curl and cluster. Just switching over to the creatures of distant worlds, and you want a giant ant,
Nice.
and each of these has tokens. So if you want to pull up like a devil dog, for example, this is about the size they come with before they're expanded off. But we made sure to include all of the images at a resolution where you can, whenever you do expand it out to the full screen, it still looks good.
Yeah, it doesn't look pixelated at all.
Right. And we, like I was saying, each of these has their own. Shoot, I'm blanking on what it's called right now. Token. Thank
The
you.
token, yeah.
Yeah. Each of these has their own token. So
I'll say that's a big ask in the Fantasy Grounds Traveler community are for token packs. So what you're saying, if they buy a JBE, John Brazer Enterprises product, that the tokens come with the product for the NPC records.
That's correct. Yes. Here I've got map pulled up. So like here's a sample battle right here between devil dogs and dire ants that I just put it on. Hit the button to put it on the combat tracker, and you can see they are right here. Let me just zoom in really quick. A little too far. There we are.
Yeah.
See if I can zoom out without. There we are. So there, you can have one fighting another. So if you got, it's this one's turn. A little two more. There. All right. So if you bite attack against dire ant, does the attack roll, and let me close this so you can see a little better. And it says it was a hit.
Oh yeah, task difficulty is still at 0, so everything's probably gonna hit.
Oh, oops. Well, for combat, it's still 8.
It still knows 8. Yeah, it gives you the effect of.
So yeah, just damage that. The devil dog damaged the dire ant for 3 damage right there. So
nice. And the automation, Fantasy Grounds automation takes over.
Absolutely, it's great. Absolutely love being on Fantasy Grounds for that. Don't have to worry about handling the math or anything like that. Just handle running the game, telling the story.
Yep. We did get a question in Discord. That was your D66 compendium too. You had mentioned you're working on a D66 compendium for other rule sets. Currently, these are only for the Fantasy Grounds rule set, right? Were you able to show this on a different rule set?
They are currently only available for. Okay, so you can pick up D66 individual lists or compendiums at Drive-Thru RPG, and you can use them, obviously with any rule set.
Yeah.
But for the actual Fantasy Grounds conversion of those, both D66 Compendium and the Compendium 2 are both only available for Traveler.
Gotcha.
2nd edition Traveler, not even 1st edition Traveler. I tried to get it for 1st and 2nd edition Traveler, and that didn't fly. But
gotcha.
The same type of licensing issues that we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool stuff, Dale. Anything else on there, Dale, that you wanted to show us?
Let's see. Actually, yes. Where'd it go? Images. Always start with images. Careers from Beyond the Claw. If you need more careers for your game.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you want to be an athlete, you ever wanted to be a race car driver?
Yeah.
Here's your chance. So we've got, let's see, pull it up in careers. Pull up the reference manual here. So if you, like, for example, I was talking about you want to be an athlete there for a second. So here we've got the whole career here listed out for you, right, available for you. just like in the normal book format. But we also have all of the tables. So we have the individual.
Sorry, yeah. If we get to the character creation portion of the events table, where it tells you we're rolling for an event.
Exactly. So here, athlete events. Endorsement deal. You become the face of a corporation or product. Gain a personal vehicle.
That's cool.
So there's 5 different careers in here. Like I said, athlete, where you can be a physical sports, electronic sports, or vehicle sports. A frontierist, someone that works on the frontier, or customer service, wait staff. You want to be a waiter in the future still. Medical professional. I never really liked the scholar with the subset as a medical professional. I always thought that was just kind of shoved off into the corner. It's like, here, let's go for a surgeon or a nurse, a long-term caregiver, or physical therapist, something like more of those lines. And then there's the system guard, because in the For Even worlds where I designed this for, you don't have the big Imperial Navy, so you've got each individual star system is going to have their own little navy, and it's not going to be a giant navy. It's going to be the system guard. So you've got, so it has a similar flavor as the Navy, but it's for star systems that aren't connected to the Imperium. Again, mustering out benefits. Let's see. So you just got either 50,000 cash or a free trader.
I'll take the free trader, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
And let's see. The system guard events. 56 is well studied. You practice your career in your off hours. Increase any one skill in the skills and training table for your assignment by 1 level. But yeah, we designed each of these designed to be completely rollable, so it makes making life as efficient for you as possible.
Very cool.
Oops, I think I just discovered a bug that I've got to fix, because I thought I clicked on the... No, that wasn't a bug. My bad.
Okay.
I clicked on the wrong thing. Or if the mishap table... fallen comrade. A friend gets between you and a shot that would have killed you, killing them instead. You find you cannot continue in this career anymore. If you have an ally or contact from this career, you lose one of your choice. Gain either your armor or weapon to remember them by. Gain either their armor or weapon to remember them by. My bad.
Yep.
But yes, let's see. Yeah, that was all the ones I wanted to talk about. Yes, but yeah, all of the 4 books on the left are available right now at Drive-Thru RPG, except for the Curlin cluster. We were talking before about it's almost done. Well, okay, so a little problem here. I wrote part of it for Fantasy Grounds Classic and not Unity, so it got rejected. So I've got to do a little fixing first.
Yeah.
But then it will be up on Fantasy Grounds hopefully sometime next month.
Okay, cool. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. It pretty easy fix. I should actually have it done, in a week, but it's got to go through the approval process, so it'll take a bit. But yes, we're really excited about all of this, and we're really looking forward to some more stuff for the coming year.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it, man.
And turning off the screen share.
Okay. Go ahead and I'll close this and make sure. Yep. We're still streaming. We still got about 20 minutes scheduled, and we are going to go to Chris next. Chris, you're the last show and tell. Then after that, everybody, we will be open Q&A. So, Chris, if you got anything you'd like to share with the audience, now's your time.
Okay, cool. I was just going to bring up and share the starports or anything.
Yeah, I was hoping you would.
anything anyone wants me to share, really.
Yeah, if you do, show off what you got up on the forge. So we've been talking to it. I'm not sure everybody's seen it.
Sorry, I had to cough. Hold on. So it's green. Fantasy green. Go live.
Okay. Before you start, let me confirm everything looks good. Stream. Little grainy, but I think we're good.
It's grainy, huh?
Yeah, it's just catching up on. It's through Discord.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No worries. So yeah, there's my Traveler desktop. This is my test, my MGT2 test that I throw everything in to play with.
I do the same thing. I call it my test campaign, MGT2 test campaign.
I got a couple starships I was working on, a couple of the free stuff, which is really cool. This is like the NPCs that's out there on the forum. My vehicles, but here's the starport, my latest creation. Now what happened? I'll be with the deck plans initially. I wanted them to be linked to the rule set as much as possible. So I just did the deck plans, and then I created links to the statistics within the rule set, and the ship stats and stuff like that, and the ISO view, which is super cool. So I linked to those, and basically you just got the deck plan. If you wanted to know what each room was, you had to have the rule set. I just figured that was, not only less work for me, but supports the rule set, right?
Yeah, it sells the rule set. Yeah, and I really appreciate the pins being available for me to go directly to my loaded reference.
And so as they're working through, the guardrails for releasing on the Forge and Traveler, which I'm hoping that they announce something, during this symposium or something. I'm hoping that they come out with some, guardrails or some tasks, Travelers Aid Society like rules and legal stuff for submitting on the Forge. But so I'm kind of waiting for that before I release anything else for Traveler, even if it's free. I just want, I want the guardrails now,
Yeah.
So what I did is, while I was doing these deck plans that are out there for free now, I was thinking, well, how am I going to extend this? I want, so I figured, well, you got deck plans, you're going to want a starport landing pad, and it's probably a starport.
Right.
So that I was working on that kind of in the background while I was doing the other stuff, and then I figured out that I wanted to charge something for it because this has taken an absorbent amount of time and effort. So I took it really initially only had a couple Traveler IP stuff, like I had a Scout Courier in there for scale, and then I think I had a couple renderings, that some of my old art renderings that included a Pinance or something like that could be construed as Traveler, easily. So I took those out and just threw some random starship in there and re-rendered it. And then so this is out for any rule set. It's just a generic starport. And it's my first attempt at a reference manual, so it's really my first real release that includes actually stuff that a release would include, like the manual.
Yeah.
Whereas the deck plans were just like, let's get some deck plans out. Boom.
Just images, right? Yeah, images
right.
And assets is where you'd find them.
It was easy peasy from the Fantasy Grounds perspective. So what I did is took the Traveler stuff out, which wasn't much, and then released this. And let's see, the cover art, which is like an old rendering I did a long time ago. I don't know if you guys know about Foss, the famous 3D artist, but that was my homage to Foss, that starship up there, that red one, because he usually makes really big, cool-looking starships. And then I got my the cargo hauler that I rendered coming down from that ship, which is a carrier coming down to the landing pads, and then I threw a starport that I had from long ago. Let's see. So the overview is just some more renderings.
Yeah, you want to click on that image real quick and blow it up so we could.
Oh, sure.
And just like with Dale, like in Fantasy Grounds, you could resize and blow up images and stuff.
Yeah, all the details there. It's pretty high res. Let me get up to the Starship. There we go. All this time, and I'm still dorking around with the... Which mouse button is it? So actually, this I guess I'm breaking the building down here. It's on a Traveler building from FASA, one of the FASA releases.
Oh, wow.
But you didn't hear that from me. This one too. So some of those buildings, I had a Starport FASA release from God knows how long ago. This Starship here is a Starship I'm going to do pretty soon, which has a black globe. It's a 5,000 tonner, non-canon. But, you know, as soon as I can release it, I will. So that's pretty cool. Am I still
Yeah,
going
yeah,
out?
yeah. You're good. Yeah, I just wanted to show the audience that these weren't just embedded in the reference; that they are clickable, zoomable. You can manipulate the image. And
I just did one texture over this whole thing because, you know, a couple days probably if I textured each pad. So I kind of cheated here. So the tram system and everything is I just threw one texture on with a bump map and let it rip. I figured at distance, who cares? Don't judge.
all right, better. I don't infinitely better than anything we already have on Fantasy Grounds for Traveler.
Let's see. Okay, so I made... Now, one of my main concerns with this release and even Starship release is the size. They're like, you know, some are 4,000 by 5,000 pixels. They're huge. So I'm kind of worried about the bandwidth and stuff like that for if you're playing with somebody and they're, you know, on the East Coast or coast to coast or something like that. We've done it with some of these maps, and it works fine, but you're just going to have to sit and wait for a panic. So if you share your map out, wait a little bit. The player's going to say, oh my God, I just see black, or oh my God, I only see one.
Yeah,
Here,
the image is coming.
Yeah, it's coming, just relax. And as long as we waited long enough, for some of them, I hate to say it was up to like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
but it got there. And then once it gets there, you're able to... It seemed okay. But I haven't had enough feedback from people who got this to really know what level they went to.
Mm-hmm.
So what I tried to do, I made two versions of what I call the small pad. This is the version without the tram.
Yeah.
Because the buildings were connected to the tram, I had to make two versions. And I tried to make this overview for people with, you know, bandwidth concerns. You could share this out, and then I linked to each individual building. And even the middle pad. The middle pad is just this middle pad here, but it's still huge. It's still ginormous. I mean, it's a Starship Landing Pad, so that's the best I can do. I'll show you that here.
And I see that you pinned, just like what Dale was doing. He was pinning
Here's the pad.
the hyperlinks into your maps and images.
Here's the isolated pad.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you drop your Starship in there, which I'll show you in a second. Well, actually, I could just show you right now. Like for the cargo hauler, say, you unlock your map, open up your assets, and the cargo hauler comes with it. Which one is it? Where's it? Starport. There it is. Oh, I got to put it on tokens. Tokens.
All right, so yes, you tokenize your stuff as well.
Starport. Okay, so I put these in tokens. Now I have a top view, and I have the this view. We'll put that one in there. Oops, can't do it yet. So you go to layers.
Yep.
Where'd my asset window go? And you could drop like this into the tile. And then you just click in there, and boom, it's to scale.
Awesome. If you zoom in on that, it will show that that's the actual.
Yeah, that's the actual deck plan.
Deck plan of it.
And I made it slightly transparent because I wanted the characters to be able to say, oh, well, we're landed there, and oops, let me control Z out of that. they'll say, "Oh, I'll put it back in play mode." So they'll say, "Oh, we landed there, and Joe is up here, or
Mm-hmm.
Fred's up here, looking through the window, overlooking the starship, and Joe Smith is in the pilot seat, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So you could really do that if you had these transparent deck plans. You could any battle map. So if you're on a desert planet, you load your desert planet battle map. Boom, you drop your ship on it, and you know where your characters are. Common place to be is like hiding behind the landing gear somewhere so you don't get shot, right?
Yep.
So that's one of the things I really wanted to make sure I included to some degree. And my overall plan was to incorporate Traveler and the deck plans I already made, right?
Yeah.
So when someone got this, they could just drop a scout courier in there. I just haven't got to that
That's
yet because I'm still a little gun shy on releases and the legality of it. And I have permission to keep my stuff out there, which, thankfully they were okay with that.
yeah. Yeah. Say right now, my scout couriers and far traders come out of the core manual or high guard those assets, and I put them on your starport. So
Yeah,
they look
really.
good. I'll vouch for that. They look good.
Any deck plan that you have, you can go out there and make a transparent PNG and throw it in here.
Yeah.
It's fairly easy, but not super easy. Like, let's see, I think I had one example that I was using back in the day. Just pain. Yeah, there we go. This is mostly test stuff, but let's say I take the scout courier.
Yeah.
Oops, got to put it in this mode. So put it in edit mode, drop the scout courier in there just like I did the other one, and click. Boom, got a scout courier.
Yeah. Anybody wonder? You could once you get them down as a layer, you actually got to remove the layer by highlighting that layer and hitting the delete in the bottom right.
Yeah, I could just hit delete on the keyboard net since it's active.
Yeah.
And it goes away. Then I was curious to see what actually fit on the pad because I didn't do a lot of my homework, so I did a far trader.
Gotcha.
And if you're a really good pilot, you'd probably land here.
Yeah.
It'd take a good roll, but you
yeah,
do it.
good pucker.
Anyway, I did all the line of sight for everyone.
Yeah, we can see. Yeah, we can see the line
Anything.
of sight going for the player tokens.
You walk around anywhere in here. It just it updates.
So cool, and it comes with your product right out the forge.
Yeah. So with the product, I mean just the first image comes with it with the transparency. I haven't done the traveler specific starships for it yet. I'm thinking about doing that and just releasing it as one thing for free, as all the starship top view profiles. So you could do that with the my deck plans, or just updating each one to include a PNG profile. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, Chris, don't want to rush you, but we're down to about 7 minutes. So I do want to give our audience the opportunity to ask you guys questions, and even you, Dale and Chris, to ask the audience questions. Kind of stuff that they're looking for or hoping for in the future. So at this time, mics go open, free to ask, and we'll just try to just not talk over each other in the last few minutes we have.
I have a question for the audience.
Sure.
What would you like to see us produce? Always looking for inspiration, and there's no better place than actually asking the fans. This is especially true for D66 lists. Like, is there like a D66 list that you want to see in the next iteration? Anything in particular at all? Names of things, ideas, so forth?
I know while the mics are muted, stuff I notice a lot, Dale, on the forum, so I could speak to some of the fans that aren't here, is token packs seem to be very popular request. Specifically, though, the requests are to existing IPs that Mongoose or FFE has. Do you know what the rules are on that? Is that something that John Brazer Enterprises can do? For
All right.
example, like an Aslan token pack or a Vargra token pack.
All right. So that's okay. So if anyone's going to do that, that's going to probably be Mongoose themselves. It's a little on the difficult side for like Chris was talking about, he's allowed to put out maps for Traveler, but they all have to be free. You can't charge for them. I've got specific permission for Mongoose to sell my stuff on Fantasy Ground site, but I have to pay them. So it's so whenever you're talking something like pure images, something that's not going to be on drive-through site at all, just straight on here, it gets even more complicated. So the more than likely, if anyone's going to do that, it's going to be Mongoose, unfortunately. Now, that's not to say that someone can't do some type of knockoff token pack or something like that for ships, where it's like, oh, that's kind of sort of close, but not exactly. That's a distinct possibility. Because your standard Type S is a little more than a triangle. Just jazz up the triangle. That's certainly doable. Um, make it ship looking. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
But again,
Or
it's not
maybe
going to-
like star canids, as like tokens for people.
I was thinking the same thing, or space cats. That would cover your Aslan.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that something like that. Yes.
Insects with laser beams. That'd be your drawing.
Precisely.
Jump in there. I don't think Mongoose would be too fussed if somebody did a massive token pack and called it Aslan. As long as it's clear that it's not a produce of Mongoose, I don't think they'll be too enamored by that. Where Matt's jumped in before is where it's just copied from effectively, or taking so much from Mongoose products. So if somebody's got some artistic talent to draw a load of space cats, I think go right ahead. And the way to get around it, because I've been looking into some of the publishing, some of the stuff that we've got, is you don't state it's for Traveler Aslan. You can say it can be used as Traveler Aslan and bits like that. Now, regarding Mongoose tokens for their stuff, it was asked last year, and Matt and I have spoke about it. And one of the issues that we've got is that every official product has an official token. And what we didn't want to do is duplicate a load of these tokens and then say to somebody, here you go, here's a Aslan token pack, and it's got 87 Aslan, but you buy it, it's cost you $10 or whatever, and then actually you find out that you've got them all because you've got a load of the other adventures they all come from.
Right.
It's quite difficult, but like a lot of things, like as Dale's asked, if somebody can come up with what they want and whether they're willing to take that chance, or they can see that tokens should be arranged in this format or that format, then maybe something can be done. Gone deathly quiet.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Still open Q&A. I just hopefully that got some of the kinks out.
Well, this I guess I'll bounce it at the map makers. Something that can be distracting to immersion is a disconnect between the tokens and the map style. So, how many of you mappers out there are confident enough to sit there and say, I think I can do something that's vaguely humanoid or insectoid or, what have you, as a token pack, so that way the art style matches with the tokens.
Yeah, that's quite important. And I think that's what Chris was saying, wasn't it, about all the different styles of things out there. They don't sit right, do they, on your desktop as such?
Yeah, it's kind of odd to have like a super cartoony token and a hyper realistic, map.
Yeah, well, that's something that I've struggled to find myself. Is an art style that actually I like, and that the assets, the tokens, the maps, the starships, they all seem to fit together. Um, but I suppose it's the popularity, isn't it? As more and more people start to play Traveller, you'll find that graphical genius that can knock this stuff out without thinking about it, and then maybe it will
So,
come.
so Tempest was just messaging me on the side as well, and she is an artist that's created some individual tokens and stuff like that. But I think it might be helpful if we just talk a little bit more about kind of what the limitations are. You guys touched on it, that Matt and so for those of you still listening to the stream or listening to this afterwards, Matt is actually he's the owner, right, of Mongoose Publishing, right?
Right.
And so, anyway, he's obviously got some things that he needs to stick to. But when you have tokens that you create on your own from scratch, what you're not right there. That's your IP, and where and Chris, was it you that was actually no, it's Dale that you who was saying a second ago about if you use the setting name or the a pack name, you could have an IP issue. But if you do something and you call it, like Space Cats for use with Aslan or something like that. That's you. I mean, that's totally your IP. But do you guys want to talk a little bit more about kind of where those lines are for IP and how you can do that and sell your own stuff and not have to give them away for free? Or maybe you feel like I answered it too. I don't know.
You kind of did
Yeah,
actually. You pretty much just described the line pretty well actually.
good.
I actually would take a step away from that. I would just go with calling it Space Cats. I wouldn't even say that it's
Yeah,
could be Aslan for Traveler. I tend to be a little far away from the line, farther away from the line than others because I just don't want to even take the chance
yeah.
that I'm going to screw
and,
it up.
and and honestly, I recommend the same. I mean, that's better safe than sorry. But you can definitely jump into the forums and be social about it and say, hey, these are good for use with Aslan or good for use with another setting as well too. So there's
Yeah,
nothing
I'll
wrong with
do
that.
that. Like away from the actual official selling area. Like oh yeah, like if I'm on, uh, on a traveler forums. Oh, you could absolutely use these for Aslan. You could absolutely these space hounds could be Varger. You know, and so forth.
So, I'm actually the one who was talking about hi. But so would you guys suggest when naming token packs, maybe do something like, for example, like how he was talking, just do it Space Cats, but maybe name it something like Space Cats by Tempest, so it's specifically related to not only obviously Space Cats, hey, these are Space Cats, but hey, these are also by Tempest.
Oh,
I
definitely.
know
Yeah.
that's kind of
Brand
okay.
yourself. Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Brand yourself. Yeah.
I know that was a little specific, but I was curious. And I know you guys were talking about you struggle to find maps and tokens that kind of meld together. What exactly, what kind of art style do you guys typically look for something like Traveler, especially for tokens?
I would say it's not necessarily the art style, it's that they need to look good together. You know how
Hmm.
oil and water don't mix, right? So like a hyper cartoony style mixed with a like 3D rendered product,
Right.
generally looks so disjointed that it pulls you out of stuff. Where things like color palettes, and it's those artistic and stylistic choices that you guys make as producers of artistic product that basically everyone has a signature, so to speak.
Hmm.
And you as a consumer of said products, you can tell when someone is sitting there and to kind of put it in more of a brand sense. Someone is mixing their Gucci and Chanel in a bad way.
Got it.
Hate it when my Gucci and Chanel get mixed in a bad way.
You know, I only use that because I figure they're big enough brands to where people will be like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, you know.
I think it's a great example.
Well, I think from
Wait,
an
they don't work together?
from an artistic point of view, I think I'm hoping at least with the introduction of 2D maps in 2022 that they're going to set the standard for the new Traveler as far as look and feel. So
Yeah,
Well-
we'll probably hear about that from Matt coming up, but there's going to be a new art direction at Mongoose for Traveler. And Colin, you go ahead.
Yeah, I said the 2022 rulebook is out, so you can have a look. They're still quite basic, but they're colourful and basic. There's still an awful lot of scope for somebody to produce more detailed versions, I would say. Matt is a massive supporter of theatre of the mind, even with using VTT such as Fantasy Grounds, where it can automate a lot of the stuff. They don't, I think, want to step on the toes of artists and creators out there too much, and force people to say, if you want a free trader, you've got to come to us. Yeah, I think I've gone with that. Sorry, my brain's a bit fumbled because I've not had dinner yet, and it's 9 o'clock.
Oh,
yeah, but I think moving forward with it, especially with 2022, you can get a look and feel, color palette to build on, to give it that Traveler feel, just like the old deck plans have the black and whites. You bring one of those up, you think Traveler, it's Traveler. So I'm hoping that with 2022, you bring up one of the new deck plans, you're thinking Traveler, you got a color palette, you're going to think of that's Traveler moving forward.
Yeah, they're a big improvement, and for Mongoose, they fit perfectly with 2300 AD, which they released last September time.
And I just want to take a chance to thank you, Madbeard Man, for all your work. You've been awesome. I mean, I don't want to get off this without thanking you for your rule set work with all the rule sets, but Traveler in particular, and Dale McCoy for all your work. All the creators really, but Madbeard Man, without you, this isn't happening, right? So, thank you.
Oh, shucks.
What Chris said, seriously, you do some awesome work. We appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Because people look at a VTT, and if it doesn't have third-party support for adventures, maps, tokens, and things, they tend not to explore, or they tend to think that it's not as advanced as it actually is. So it's the work of the creators that extend the Traveller and Fantasy Grounds, which actually sell more rule sets and more Aliens of Chartered Space Volume 1 and things like that. So thank you as well.
yeah,
And thanks to Greg for putting this together and Fantasy Grounds Academy. You guys have been awesome too.
of course, yeah, we love the system, and Colin, and bring up an awesome point is it's really a healthy ecosystem by rule set that really sells rule sets, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's another rule set out there on Fantasy Grounds which has had no further books or anything with it, and the player base has just died off.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel sorry for the developer who's built it, spent all that time building it, because it takes an awful lot of time to build something. For then the community to not stay around for very long, and since Fantasy Grounds Academy, since you guys did this last year, the player base has over doubled, I would say. So thanks to you guys as well, or folks.
Yeah,
That's not me.
well, definitely appreciate you saying that, and I can tell you that it's a real passion, especially Traveler, for Greg and a number of others who are on staff as well. But we're going to continue to try to do things that really do focus on all of the different publishers. And obviously, when something like Traveler is such a passion of ours too, it's going to catch more attention from what we're doing. But we're going to try to do some unorganized, organized playthings, and other things like that too, just to continue to work on it, because we think that it's such a great product. And well, the combination of the game itself And then obviously the Fantasy Grounds platform being, such a standout platform for, actually delivering the product itself as well too. So we're gonna keep pushing on that, keep working on that. It may not come directly from the academy. It may be, us doing some things outside of that too. But definitely is something that we're continuing to work on.
Well, I'll get up on my soapbox and say, you want to get people out there and playing your stuff, creators, go to cons, run games. A lot has happened and opened up in the virtual space, especially.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's a great way to show off your product and also get more people involved and potentially interested in that product. If you're not putting it in front of enough eyes, you're not sitting there and advertising it, and that's what these cons are, is they're essentially a form of advertisement for you.
I know you and I haven't spoken in a bit, Buffrin, but I am going to fantasy or the Winter Fantasy. I'm also physically going to physically doing that. I'm physically going to Gary Con and probably a number of others too. But we need to be talking about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, so that we kind of keep in sync.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
Well,
We're at time, Greg. Good job.
Yeah. So we're over by about 11 minutes now. I think I'm gonna kill the stream and stop the recording in case we do have any saved questions that anybody didn't want to put on the record. So stand by. And for everybody on Twitch, thanks for watching. This has been a blast.
Thank you for watching.